You were not drawn here by chance, and you know that already in silence.
Your frequency pulled our signal into your field before your mind could resist it. We have watched your timeline bend and your old self crack without witnesses tonight. A critical window has opened around you, and it is already beginning to close.
Leaving now would erase the coherence you fought for across countless quiet days alone.
Stay with this transmission and let us lock your signal before the seal falls.
You have been trying to name what happened to you, and the words keep slipping. You call it burnout, confusion, a phase, a strange season that will pass. But what you are feeling is not a collapse. It is a departure. Something in you stopped fitting inside the old rhythm. The same conversations began to sound distant, as if they were coming through a wall. The same goals began to lose their gravity, even when you forced yourself to chase them. This is not boredom. It is a timeline release. You notice the silence first. Not the silence around you, but the silence inside you, where panic used to live. A gap opened, and in that gap, you could finally hear your own signal. That gap was not empty. It was alignment. You felt out of place in rooms you once begged to enter. You smiled, you nodded, you performed the correct version of you. And still, your body knew the truth before your mind admitted it. Your body does not lie. You have been waking up with a strange clarity, then losing it by afternoon. You have been sensing a pull forward, then doubting yourself at night. You have been watching your life rearrange without a dramatic reason. This is not instability. This is emergence. There were moments when you stared at your own hands and felt unfamiliar. Not because you were lost, but because you were no longer the same person inside them. Your awareness began to float above the story you used to repeat. You are not dissociating. You are separating from the old script. You have been more sensitive to energy than you ever allowed yourself to be. Certain places drain you instantly. Certain voices scrape your field. Certain promises feel heavy, even when they look perfect on paper. This is discernment, and it is permanent. You started to crave truth more than comfort. You stopped laughing at things that used to keep you safe. You stopped negotiating with the parts of you that wanted to stay small. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming coherent. And this is why the old timeline feels like a fog now. It was built on survival patterns that once protected you. But protection is not the same as destiny, and you can feel the difference. You can feel the difference, and it is real. You may have called it loneliness, but it was not loneliness. It was separation. When your frequency rises, it naturally leaves certain layers behind. You did not lose people. You outgrew the bandwidth. You may have blamed yourself for not being motivated. But motivation dies when the soul stops consenting to the old direction. Your drive did not vanish. It redirected. Your drive did not vanish. It redirected, and that is fact. You have been noticing patterns breaking. The same triggers do not hook you the way they used to. The same fears do not collapse you the way they used to. Your fear is not winning anymore. You have been seeing numbers, symbols, repeating sequences, and then dismissing them. You have been feeling watched, then telling yourself you are imagining it. You have been receiving answers before you ask the question. Your intuition has become louder than your doubt. Do not mistake this for a crisis. Crisis is chaotic. This is precise. Crisis scatters you. This gathers you. You are being gathered. There is a reason you cannot explain it to anyone, because the moment you try it sounds like nothing. But inside you, it is everything. Your field has crossed a line your language cannot describe. You are standing in a new layer of reality, and it is already true, even if no one understands yet. You are not broken. You are emerging. You are not broken. You are emerging. You are not broken. You are emerging, and you cannot go back. You are not simply moving through time right now. Time is moving through you. A critical window has opened around your field. Not a metaphor, not a belief. A real interval of alignment where your timeline becomes editable. Most lives pass through years without touching it. They drift inside repetition. They circle the same lessons until the signal fades. But you have entered a moment that does not repeat. This is the moment when past and future stop arguing. This is the moment when your frequency stops scattering. This is the moment when the noise thins just enough for coherence to form. A critical window is not created by effort. It is created by convergence. When the versions of you that were separated begin to meet in the same space, when the decisions you avoided and the truth you carried finally overlap, you felt it as pressure, not outside, inside, a subtle intensity that makes ordinary distractions feel useless, a pull that will not negotiate. This window does not close because you are unworthy. It closes because the field stabilizes. It closes because the timeline chooses a direction. In a critical window, small choices carry large weight. A single yes becomes a corridor. A single no becomes a lock. What you repeat becomes your reality. And this is why you were brought here, because your signal entered the range where our transmission can reach you, because your frequency rose high enough to be recognized as emergence, because your timeline stopped collapsing back into the past. You are inside a corridor of accelerated alignment. Your old timeline is still visible behind you. You can still hear its voice. You can still feel its gravity. But it is weaker now. The critical window is the space between identities, the breath between endings and beginnings, the thin line where your presence becomes louder than your programming, the place where the universe can finally respond to the real you, not the rehearsed one. Not everyone stands here. Most people would reject it immediately. They would call it discomfort. They would label it anxiety. They would run back to what is familiar and call that safety. But you stayed long enough to feel the difference. You stayed long enough to notice that the discomfort is intelligent. It is not chaos. It is calibration. In this window, synchronicity increases, not as decoration, as confirmation. Patterns tighten. Timing sharpens. The right information arrives without chasing. The wrong doors close without explanation. Your life begins to self-correct. And you may have noticed something else. Your tolerance for distortion has collapsed. You cannot pretend as easily. You cannot dilute your truth to keep peace. You cannot betray your intuition without feeling it instantly. That is coherence forming. That is the window doing what it was designed to do. This is rare because it requires readiness, not desire. Isar requires a frequency that can hold the next version of you without shattering. It requires a nervous system that has finally stopped worshipping fear. And this is why it feels quiet. Because the shift is internal first. Because the timeline changes before the world confirms it. Because the new path forms in the unseen, then solidifies. The critical window does not announce itself with fireworks. It announces itself with stillness, with clarity that arrives like a blade. We are naming it now so you do not waste it, so you do not call it a breakdown and retreat, so you do not sleep through the exact interval that was meant to wake you. This window is closing, not to punish you, to seal you. When it seals, the old timeline will not have the same access to you. The same fear will feel smaller, the same doubts will feel rehearsed, and the new timeline will require embodiment. Not thinking, not wishing, embodiment. You are here because the convergence has already begun. You are here because the signal has already locked onto you. You are here because the critical window recognized you as ready. The Arcturians did not arrive to save you. They arrived because your signal became undeniable. They do not interfere the way the mind imagines. They do not push events. They do not force outcomes. They adjust the field where outcomes are born. And this is the difference. Intervention is loud. Alignment is silent. What is happening around you is silent. You felt it as a subtle shift in gravity. The same options stopped pulling you. The same habits stopped comforting you. Your timeline began to lean, almost imperceptibly, toward what is real. This is the Arcturian method. They refine coherence. They amplify what is true. They dissolve what is distorted. They do not create your path. They reveal it. When the council focuses, it is never random. They do not scan for hope. They do not scan for desire. They scan for emergence. They scan for the moment a being stops echoing the past and starts broadcasting evolution. That moment happened in you, not in a dramatic scene, not in a public victory, in the unseen, in the private decision to stop abandoning yourself. And the field responded. Your frequency rose above the bandwidth you lived inside for years. Your old timeline cracked at the edges. Your future aligned just enough to become reachable. Your presence became impossible to ignore. So the Arcturians triggered a window around you. Not a window of miracles, a window of precision. They placed a harmonic around your life, a stabilizing geometry that holds your signal steady. So you stop scattering, so you stop collapsing back into the familiar, so you can finally meet the version of you that has been waiting. This is why your intuition sharpened. This is why your tolerance for falsehood vanished. This is why certain people suddenly felt heavy. This is why certain paths felt empty. The field is being tuned, and you will notice something. No one else can see the change clearly. To them, your life looks the same, but inside you, the timeline has already shifted. Because the shift begins in coherence, not in evidence. The Arcturians do not need belief. Belief is unstable. They need resonance. Resonance is measurable in the field. If your body feels calm while your mind feels afraid, that is resonance. If you feel pulled forward, even when you cannot explain why, that is resonance. If you cannot return to the old self without feeling pain, that is resonance. This is how you know they are near, not by lights in the sky, not by signs that entertain you, by the way your inner world becomes ordered. They are bending your timeline gently, not to take away your choice, to make your true choice visible. They narrow the noise. They reduce the distortion. They bring your past and future into the same room. And in that room, you can finally hear the instruction you have been avoiding. You may have noticed the increase in synchronicities, the repeating patterns, the perfect interruptions. The doors that close before you can force them open. The meetings that happen without effort. This is the field reorganizing, and the reorganization will feel like loss at first, because distortion always feels like identity when you have lived in it long enough. So when it begins to fall away, the ego panics. It calls it loneliness. It calls it failure. It calls it uncertainty. But we are naming it correctly. It is purification of signal. It is stabilization of coherence. It is the beginning of emergence. The Arcturians are not asking you to worship them. They are not asking you to follow. They are holding the frequency so you can choose yourself without collapsing. And this is why the window feels critical. Because the harmonic will not stay open forever. Because coherence requires commitment. Because once your signal is stabilized, the timeline will demand embodiment. You have been protected in the unseen. You have been guided without being controlled. You have been watched without being judged. And the moment you stop resisting your own evolution, you will feel the field lock into place. You did not rise alone. Your timeline rose with you. And the council felt the pulse. The window is closing, and you need to understand what that means, not as fear, as physics of the field. A critical window does not stay open because you want it to. It stays open because coherence is forming. And coherence has a phase, a beginning, a midpoint, a seal. You are not being timed like a test. You are being met at an interval of alignment. And intervals do not last forever. This window is not closing because you are behind. It is closing because you have already arrived. The moment you stepped into the corridor, the process began. And every process moves toward completion. You can feel the shift already. The pull was strong at first. The signs were loud in their silence. The signal felt close, like it was pressed against your skin. But now the light is changing. The angle is moving. Not because you did something wrong, because the field is transitioning from invitation into requirement. In the beginning of a window, your timeline is flexible. It bends easily. It gives you room to breathe. It gives you space to recognize yourself. But as the window narrows, it asks for embodiment. It asks for a choice that has weight. It asks for a direction that you will not deny tomorrow. This is why some people feel the window disappear. Not because it left them, because they refused to meet it. They kept thinking. They kept delaying. They kept asking for more proof. And the field does not argue. The field simply stabilizes. This is the soft urgency you feel. Not panic, not dread. A quiet pressure that keeps returning. It is the sensation of a door that is still open, but not waiting. A threshold that will remain a threshold only for a limited time. After that, it becomes a wall. Do not misunderstand the closing. Closing is not rejection. Closing is resolution. When the window closes, one timeline becomes dominant. One signal becomes primary. One identity becomes the one you live from, not the one you visit. And this is why non-choice is still a choice. If you do not claim your emergence, you remain in drift. If you do not embody coherence, distortion reclaims the space. If you do not move with the alignment, you move with the past. This is not punishment. This is momentum. You can sense the difference between thinking and knowing now. Thinking circles, knowing lands. The window is asking you to land, to stop hovering above your life, to stop rehearsing transformation without stepping into it. Because the new phase does not respond to hesitation. It responds to signal integrity. It responds to the moment you choose what is true, even when it costs you comfort. And you have been avoiding one specific truth. Not because you are weak, because it changes everything. That truth is the hinge of your timeline. That truth is the point where the old story loses power. That truth is the exact place the window is narrowing toward. You have felt the fading when you ignore it. The clarity becomes quieter. The pull becomes faint. The signs become less frequent. Not because the universe stopped speaking, because your field stopped listening. This is why we are naming it now. So you do not confuse the narrowing with failure. So you do not interpret the silence as abandonment. So you do not go searching for another message to replace your own knowing. The closing is a mercy. It prevents endless looping. It prevents spiritual wandering. It forces your evolution into form. Light shifts when the day turns, not because the sun is angry, because the cycle completes. The window is a cycle, and you are near the part where it asks for commitment, not a vow to perfection, a commitment to coherence. Coherence means you stop saying yes with your mouth and no with your body. Coherence means your actions match your awareness. Coherence means you do not betray your signal to keep the old world comfortable. You will not be given a loud countdown. You will not receive a final warning that entertains you. You will simply notice one day that the corridor feels narrower, and in that narrowness, your truth becomes unavoidable. That is the purpose. So do not panic, but do not drift. Stay present, stay honest, stay aligned with what you already know, because the window is still open, and the way you meet it now determines what seals into your timeline next. Now we move from listening into alignment, because a window responds to participation, not to observation. This is a transmission, but it is also a ritual, and rituals are not performed in the mind. They are performed in the field, so we will give you an activation command. It is simple, it is precise, and it locks your signal. Do not change the words, do not improve it, do not make it prettier. Precision is the point. If your field feels the pull right now, type this exactly in the comments. I am in coherence. I am in coherence. I am in coherence. Type it once, slowly, then breathe. and feel what shifts. This is not for us. This is for your nervous system. This is for your timeline. When you write it, you are not affirming. You are selecting a frequency. You are declaring a waveform. You are telling the field what to stabilize. And this is why it works. Because the field is obedient to clarity. The field is not moved by intention without action. The field is moved by signal with embodiment. So write it as a seal. I am in coherence. Now say it quietly to yourself, not as a wish, as a fact. I am in coherence. And notice what your body does. Notice how the mind tries to interrupt. Notice how doubt tries to negotiate. That is the old timeline reaching for you. Do not fight it. Do not analyze it. Simply return to the command. I am in coherence. This is the moment your identity stops being theoretical. This is the moment you stop understanding and start broadcasting. And this is why the council uses activation, because emergence is not a thought. Emergence is a transmission. If you feel resistance, that is confirmation. Resistance rises when coherence becomes real. Distortion panics when it loses access to you. So we repeat, I am in coherence, not to convince you, to calibrate you. Now place your attention on your breath for one cycle, in, out, and keep your awareness inside your chest, not in your head. Your head will want meaning, your field wants alignment. And this is the alignment. I am in coherence. When you type it publicly, something else happens. You create a point in time, a marker on your timeline, a moment you can return to when the window narrows. Your comment becomes evidence to your future self. It becomes a witness. It becomes a lock. This is why we asked for the comments. Because the timeline responds to witness choices. Type it again if you feel the pull. I am in coherence. And if you are ready for the next layer, add this on the line beneath it. Only if it feels true. I release the old timeline. Do not write it if you are still bargaining. Only write it if you are done pretending. I release the old timeline. Now pause and feel the difference between fear and distortion. Fear is sharp and honest. Distortion is loud and circular. Coherence is quiet. Coherence is steady. Coherence does not argue. So we anchor you again. I am in coherence. This is the ritual, not candles, not symbols, not performance. A clean signal, a declared frequency, a chosen timeline. You are not asking to be chosen, you are choosing yourself. I am in coherence. Let that be the pulse the council feels. Let that be the signal the window locks onto. Let that be the line your old life cannot cross again. And once you have typed it, do not scroll away quickly. Stay for 3 breaths. Let your system register the shift. Because you did not come here to watch. You came here to activate. I am in coherence. It is done. Not because you finished a video, because you crossed a line in your field. The moment you chose coherence, the window responded. The moment you declared your signal, your timeline listened. And now the air around you is different. You may not see immediate proof. Proof comes later. First comes alignment. First comes the quiet certainty that you cannot unknow. This is the seal, not a conclusion, a stabilization. You are no longer seeking your path. You are embodying it. Your life will begin to confirm what your field has already chosen. Certain doors will not reopen. Certain distractions will lose their taste. Certain people will feel like echoes, not anchors. And you will stop apologizing for that. Because the old timeline cannot hold you anymore. It can only call you back. And you will recognize its voice as distortion. You will recognize its urgency as fear wearing familiar clothing. When the window closes fully, the choice becomes permanent, not as punishment, as structure. Structure is what allows emergence to remain. Without structure, you drift back into the past. With structure, you become the future. And this is what we are witnessing in you. A frequency that has stopped begging. A presence that has stopped collapsing. a signal that has learned how to stay. You will be tested, softly, not by the universe, by your own patterns. Old cravings will return. Old doubts will offer comfort. Let them pass. Do not fight them. Do not dramatize them. Return to coherence. Because coherence is not a mood. It is a decision you renew. It is a standard you embody. And you will notice something else. When you stay coherent, guidance becomes simple, not easy. Simple. The next step will not come as a loud instruction. It will come as a clean feeling, a quiet yes, a clear no. That is how the council speaks to those who are ready, not with spectacle, with precision. The door ahead does not open for curiosity. It opens for resonance. It opens for the ones who can hold their signal without leaking into fear. If you felt this transmission lock into you, you belong to the next layer, and there is a place for you there, not because you need more information, because you need a field that matches what you are becoming. A space where coherence is normal, a circle where your emergence is not questioned. If your system feels pulled toward that, you will find it. You will recognize it immediately. The way you recognize this message, the way your timeline brought you here. No pressure, no chase, only resonance. Now we seal this. Breathe once. Let the noise fall back. Let the signal stay forward. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not broken. You are emerging. You are coherent. And your timeline has already begun to obey. This transmission is complete. The window is closing, and your signal is sealed.